If your content feels inconsistent, it's probably not because you're lazy, and it's probably not because you don't want it bad enough. It's usually because you're making too many decisions when you sit down to create, and that's what actually burns people out. I want to talk about something I see consistently with artists and creators, and honestly, something I've had to work through myself. A lot of people feel like they're behind, like they should be further along. They've put in time, they've learned skills, and they've tried being consistent, but somehow the work still feels heavy. And when things feel heavy, we usually assume the answer is more effort. More posting, more ideas, more tools, more output. That assumption is usually wrong. Most creators aren't stuck because they don't know how to create. They're stuck because every time they open their laptop, they have to redecide who they are, what they're trying to say, and how they want to say it. That's exhausting. At that point, you're not just editing a video, you're negotiating with yourself. Should this be serious? Should this be funny? Does this fit my brand? Does it make sense? How do I film it? Is this even good? When you live there long enough, consistency stops feeling like discipline and starts feeling like friction. Here's the shift that changed everything for me. Most creators don't have a motivation problem. They have a clarity problem. Motivation comes and goes, but clarity compounds. When things are clear, you don't need to hype yourself up to create. You just do the work. This is where people usually go wrong. They feel unclear, so they download another app, chase another strategy, get the latest and greatest AI, watch another tutorial, anything but creating. But tools don't remove confusion. They actually add to it if you don't already know what you're trying to communicate. You don't need more options when you're already overwhelmed by decisions. I remember a point where I realized something felt off. On paper, things were going well. I was creating consistently. I had momentum. But internally, the work felt heavier than it should have. Not because I didn't love it, but because every piece of content felt like starting from zero. That's when I realized, if the process requires constant rethinking, it's not sustainable. The creators who last don't have the most ideas. They're the ones who removed all the distractions. They know how they communicate, how they structure ideas, how they show up visually. So they're not inventing themselves every time they post. That's what clarity actually looks like in practice. Fewer choices, fewer debates, more execution. When I simplified how I communicated ideas, everything else got easier. Editing felt lighter, posting felt easier. Even my confidence changed because I wasn't second guessing every decision. Not because the work got simpler, but because the thinking did. This doesn't just apply to content. It applies to creative careers in general. Most people think progress comes from doing more. In reality, progress usually comes from doing less, but doing it with more intention, with better intention, with clearer intention. Clarity gives your effort somewhere to go. Without it, even hard work just turns into noise. At a certain point, I had to stop relying on inspiration and start systemizing clarity. Not to be robotic, but so the work didn't require constant renegotiation. If your work feels heavier than it should, it's probably not asking you to work harder. It's probably asking you to get clearer.